Just a quick bit of gaming. It's been a while, and I'm testing some new settings. I'm playing the game in a 1280-720 window, recording it at 1280-720. That allows me to have the scaling at 300% and a degree of anti-aliasing on. I will now turn off my mic and get on the road.
America was doing the same thing, then everyone would cheer him, or France, or whatever. So it's unbelievable that we're trying to pretend that he's done something wrong when there's no evidence to suggest.
Do you remember Clinton had an affair with an intern and carried on being president?
Absolutely, that's the point. But nobody wants to scream and shout about that. However,
well, they did. There was the Ken Starr report. He was impeached.
Yes, of course. But the point is that this particular campaign against Schofield seems to be based on the fact that it's a homosexual.
I don't know. I think it's the power imbalances is what is the, for me, if there is fault or wrongdoing, that's the thing that makes it toxic. And the preferential treatment if there was. But Steve, thank you very much. I just want to squeeze in Mark before we get to my podcast trail. Mark, in Worcestershire, you're on the radio. Oh, it says Worcestershire on my screen. What would you like to add as a final note to this hour?
Yeah, I'll make it quick, Rachel. Philip Schofield, this is what I believe. What's going on with Philip Schofield? We're talking about the sexuality affairs. I think that Philip Schofield is aware of something going on within the higher echelons within the media which he works in, and there is a witch hunt against him because he may expose certain people.
We can't go there, Mark. We can't go there. Listen.
The thing is,
unsubstantiated allegations, witch hunts, and all that. We can't. Let's just probably wrap up that out there. Louise is. No, we got quick time for Anthony.
Hey.
Hi there. Hi, Anthony. You've got a few. We've got about 30 seconds.
I've got so much to say.
Oh, can you squeeze it into 30 seconds?
I've been through the same thing that he's been through, and I really can't believe what a nemesis has become just because of, just having an affair. What's that? I mean, it's nothing.
He's not the first. He's not the first man. He's not the last man.
We haven't got enough time. It's a shame that we haven't got enough time, but I could. I was waiting until I was 34 and then I'd come out, and that was a hard one for me. I was going to commit suicide. And I did something similar, and people found out, and it was like a bit of a witch hunt for me. But I realised the people that were against it are usually the ones that think of it anyway.
Well, I'm glad that you've had the courage to ring in and tell us, if only briefly, about your experience and your compassion for what Philip Schofield is going through too. Anthony, thank you very much for that. Right, I'm afraid that's all we've got time for on Philip Schofield, but my guest on this week's Difficult Women podcast is the Gogglebox star and the writer Mary Killen. We spoke about everything from why she's scared of driving, what makes her cry, the troubles, she's from Northern Ireland, and how tough life is when you have no money. This is a sneak preview of the episode, and we spoke also about Mary's marriage to her fellow Gogglebox star, her husband Giles Wood, and I began by asking her if she was a difficult woman.
Yeah.
Are you difficult though?
Well, Giles, my husband, would say I was difficult. I don't think anyone else would. But I am difficult to him because I've got so much to do. And I'm doing it all. I take on too much. And he would say I was difficult because I shut out of the window for him to come in. And he said, "Don't shout at me like that, it gives me a fright, I'm just in a reverie, And then I once got a loudhailer, that they use on
Klaxon, yeah.
And I called him, but he was so cross about that I had to stop doing it.
But you take on a lot, and Giles has made his living as a painter, and he also basically is a gardener, and he sort of absorbs nature, and he wants to be in nature all the time. So what his strengths and your strengths, do they balance each other out, or are you now doing too much together for it to be a balancing act?
No, he's very good. I mustn't dog out, he makes fires, he chops the wood, he grows vegetables, and he does the driving. But I always have to nag him to drive me. He doesn't really want to drive, but no, so he is. And Anne says, how would you get a cook, chauffeur and gardener? You know, you're very lucky to have him. And I think all men are really annoying in their own way. I once wrote a book about this called How to Live with Your Husband. And each of the women I spoke to, their own husband was really maddening in a different way to Giles. But I think we just have to accept that they are annoying men in general.
I know, we've had this conversation many times, and what would be the point of swapping your annoying husband, who happens to have committed to you and fathered your children, with another man who hasn't committed to you or fathered your children? It just doesn't make any sense at all.
Yeah, I mean, I have one friend whose husband signs up at an expensive gym every January the 1st and then doesn't go. That's the only time he goes.
And that makes him annoying.
Very.
That was the Gogglebox star Mary Killen speaking on the latest episode of my Difficult Women podcast, which is out on Global Player tomorrow. Well, that's it from me. Thank you for all your calls, texts and tweets this evening. I'll be back next Sunday evening from 7 for my usual show. If you've missed any of this evening's show, you can listen back on Catch Up on Global Player, where you can also enjoy the world's biggest podcast, including my own. Download Global Player for free from your app store or head to globalplayer.com. Coming up at 1 on LBC, it's Richard Spur. But right now, here's Nick Abbott.
Thank you, Rachel. A packed programme tonight. We'll be discussing relationships at work. Perhaps you have noticed a story about that, taking up enough paper to sink a battleship this week. We'll talk about Labour's promise to ease the student debt burden. We'll marvel as artificial intelligence appears to be mirroring the most frightening of our sci-fi films. And we'll get a roundup on the latest from the United States. But first, why is the government so obsessed with stopping the votes? Is it really their big idea to win the next general election? That more coming up with me, Nick Abbott, after the new news at 10 on LBC.
On your radio, on Global Player, and
Play LBC.
Leading Britain's conversation. This is LBC.
From Global's newsroom at 10 o'clock, Indian rescue workers say they have completed their operations after the country's deadliest rail crash in more than 2 decades. A signal failure is emerging as the most likely cause of the accident, which killed at least 275 people. More than 900 have been discharged from hospital, while 260 are still being treated. Abhilash Malik is the editor of the English-language website The Quint in Mumbai and says he feels deep sorrow for all of those involved.
I'm actually from the state where the crash happened, so it was very personal for me. And in the last big crash that I can think of was in 2016, but even then the number wasn't this big.
In the last few minutes, it's emerged police have charged an animal rights activist who ran onto the track at the Epsom Derby. A man was filmed jumping the fence and sprinting onto the course as the race began on Saturday. Officials in the Ukrainian city of Dnipro say a missile attack this weekend has killed a 2-year-old girl and injured 22 other people. They also claim 17 people are currently being treated in hospital. China has tightened access to Tiananmen Square in central Beijing for the anniversary of the military suppression of pro-democracy campaigners in 1989.